Would I be the a-hole for reporting my brother-in-law to CBS for what he did? My male 27 sister passed away in 2018. She left behind my 10-year-old nephew, and me and my nephew used to be very close. But because of the tension between me and my brother-in-law, his dad, we don't get along for several reasons. But I'm not going to get into that right now. My brother-in-law used to be a member of a club in his hometown. He has lots of tattoos. His whole left arm is covered in tattoos, as well as his neck and fingers. Last week, while he was visiting my parents' house, I was there, and I spent some time with my nephew. My nephew said the upper part of his shoulder has been itching. I checked and saw a spider-shaped tattoo with few letters around it. I was shocked because it looked like a permanent tattoo. There was redness in his skin, and he told me his dad got him a tattoo a few days ago. I went to speak to his dad. He didn't even try to explain, and just responded with, "So what?" when I asked if he really got his son a tattoo. I got into an argument with him telling him that what he did was not acceptable, especially since my nephew said he hated it. I asked who was okay with giving a minor a tattoo. My brother-in-law said that the tattoo artist is a close friend of his, and he agreed to give my nephew a tattoo. I told him this was wrong, and I will be getting CPS involved. He then yelled at me, telling to F off, and that I can't do jack since he's the father and has the authority. My parents told me to back off after he said he won't bring my nephew to visit again if I continue. My dad told me to mind my own business and stop being a jerk to a widower. I got overwhelmed after everyone demanded I apologize for my behavior, and I have not seen any of my family ever since. I've been thinking about this confrontation and my nephew's well-being. I'm worried and seriously considering calling CPS about what brother-in-law did. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. There's a reason minors aren't allowed tattoos, especially when they've yet to finish growing. I would absolutely call CPS. The pain involved in tattooing, especially against a child's will, is nothing short of abuse. The man is not a fit parent, and being a widow, especially for 3 years, is no excuse for this. Not the a-hole. Make the call. I am a mandated reporter. If I saw a tattoo on a 10-year-old kid at my school, I would be required to make the call. Every state has a confidentiality policy, meaning they can out you. The family won't get that information and may think a teacher did it. This kid is doubtless going to show his classmates and word spreads. You can't deny it, because they're a-holes. This kid has a tattoo he hates, and it may be infected. Make the call and let the authorities handle it. What happens is up to them in the courts, not you. But someone needs to make that call, and you sound like the only sensible adult in the equation. Good on you for caring for that kid. This kid has a tattoo he hates, and it may be infected. This is my main concern for the moment. No sane tattoo artist would do this to a child. So this means that the one who actually did it to the poor boy is probably someone who isn't strict with the rules either. And it is bothering the child. Infection is a real danger, and there are plenty of other risks as well. So the poor child definitely needs to be seen by a doctor. Report, report, report. It is in the best interest of the child. Not a-hole. Please call CPS. Might wreck your relationship with brother-in-law, but who cares? He sounds like an A. Giving him a tattoo? That's insane. Not a-hole. This is child abuse. Honestly, the brother-in-law sounds like an absolute psycho. This might ruin your relationship with him, but honestly, it is in your nephew's best interest. And brother-in-law doesn't sound like the kind of person you'd want in your life anyway. Is it possible your parents were defending him out of fear? They may be scared of losing their grandson, and also scared of brother-in-law himself. I try not to worry too much about their reaction, and do what you feel is right. Deep down, they probably know that what he did was wrong, and are too scared to admit it in front of him. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my parents insensitive after their reaction toward my late brother's wife's pregnancy test? My older brother passed away almost 2 months ago, and the feelings are still very fresh. My sister-in-law, his wife, is staying at my parents' house right now because she still can't set foot in their apartment. I, 29 male, live a few houses down from my parents, so I'm over all the time right now being there with them, so we all have that support. 2 weeks ago, my sister-in-law was getting sick. Throwing up and stuff, but grief makes it hard to eat sometimes. I know, because I've dropped 5 pounds and can't eat much either. But since this only recently started happening to her, my mom became ecstatic out of nowhere and said maybe she's pregnant. This really freaked my sister-in-law out, and she honestly looked terrified. My parents went on talking about how beautiful it would be to have a baby right now, and it's my brother's parting gift. This did not make her happy at all. She bought a pregnancy test that same day, and it was negative. Sister-in-law was relieved, but my parents were not. My mom told her to wait another week, because sometimes it takes a while for the hormones to change or something like that. Again came back negative. My mom is still insisting she's pregnant, and sister-in-law has an appointment tomorrow to confirm, but she's pretty certain she's not. At dinner yesterday, all they would talk about is the baby, and sister-in-law admitted she doesn't want a child right now. This really angered my mom, and she said my sister-in-law was being very cruel for not wanting her child. It started upsetting sister-in-law and looked like she was gonna cry, so I told them to stop it already. She left at the table, and I called them out for being insensitive. I said they don't get she just lost her husband. Do you really think she wants to be a single mom right now on top of what she's going through? And why would they want this pregnancy when that'll mean their grandkid will grow up without their father? I was pretty ready to face telling them this because it really got to me. All week, I've told them to leave her alone about this because it's obviously been too much for sister-in-law and they just wouldn't stop. Even when she tells them she doesn't want to talk about it. This made my mom emotional too and told me I don't understand because I'm not a parent. Then my dad got mad at me for reacting that way when they just want to be happy about the possibility of having a grandchild. But to me, it's been pointed out to them that sister-in-law isn't happy about this, so I push it and make her uncomfortable. My parents are still mad at me. Dad just think I was an a-hole for calling them insensitive and making it seem like they were doing something wrong. Sister-in-law is still a mess and anxious about her appointment. She doesn't believe she's pregnant, but says she doesn't know what she'll do if it somehow turns out she is. Anyways, I'd like to know if what I said made me an a-hole. It really pissed me off is all. Not an a-hole at all. Thank you for standing up for your sister-in-law. Your mother is understandably grieving the loss of her child right now, and has latched onto the idea that his widow could be carrying his child. Honestly, I hope for everyone's sake she isn't, because this isn't healthy. I guarantee that your mother is already thinking of this child as the reincarnation of your brother, and it will be insufferable. Your mother needs therapy. Your father is also an a-hole for completely ignoring that your sister-in-law lost her husband in his own grief for his son. Can your sister-in-law stay with you? It'd probably be better for her. I hope so too. She already told me she doesn't know if she could actually make it through a pregnancy. And I get that. But it would cause an even bigger drama with my parents, so here's hoping she isn't. We're talking about that. I told her if she's not comfortable there, she can come here. She just feels guilty about leaving since they took her in. For your information, if she's feeling sick but got 2 negative tests, she's 99% not pregnant. Typically, you don't start feeling nauseated until you're about 6 weeks pregnant or later, and that's more than enough time to get a positive test. Pregnancy symptoms typically don't appear till, well, after you've missed your period or gotten a positive test, so I'm pretty sure she's in the clear. Not a a-hole. I've actually been in this situation. My husband died 6 years ago. When he died, his mother kept asking if I could be pregnant and saying how she would love to have something of my husband still left behind. She put pressure on me, and when we found out that I wasn't pregnant, it made me feel like a terrible person who couldn't give his mom what she wanted. It was a mess, and I didn't need that guilt and pain when I was already devastated over losing my husband. You sound honestly amazing for standing up for your sister-in-law. That was kind of you, and the right thing to do. Your parents need to back off and let her grieve. They are taking their emotions out on her, and it's not beneficial for anyone. Keep having her back. You're a good guy. Not a a-hole. Your parents are treating your sister-in-law like a human incubator for your brother's memories. They need to step back and realize they are being outrageous, and their behavior is absolutely unacceptable. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my mother-in-law a bad mother and kicking her off a family Zoom call? My 41 female husband 42 male and I have been married for 15 years. I have an okay relationship with my mother-in-law, but prefer to limit contact with her because she's very nosy and likes to gossip. When I first met my husband, he told me that he was an only child. However, when we started to get serious and were discussing marriage, he told me that he was in fact not an only child, that he has a sister. However, he wants nothing to do with her. He told me he tells people that he is an only child because 1. People will be nosy and ask why he does not speak to her. Or 2. Try to get him to fix the relationship with her. I told him that it was his choice, and that family's who you choose, not what you were born into. He went on to explain that his sister has a history with addiction. She is a habitual liar, and would lie on purpose so that he would get into trouble and not her, and that she would steal from him. He said that when he moved out at 18, the last conversation that he had with his sister was him telling her that he wanted nothing to do with her, and that he is an only child. My mother-in-law has been trying to force a relationship between them ever since, much to the detriment of her own relationship with her son. Saturday was my husband's birthday, so I organized a family Zoom call 2 weeks ago so that everyone could sing happy birthday and open presents with him. The week prior, my mother-in-law sent me a message over Facebook that she wanted to surprise my husband with his sister. She said she felt like it was time for the two of them to bury the hatchet. I told her that this is not a good idea, that my husband wants nothing to do with her, and that I would not open lines of communication between the two of them without discussing it with him first. She asked me if I could give sister-in-law my contact information, and I told her no. Well, she did anyway, and my sister-in-law started texting and calling me on my phone. Since she is not a Facebook friend, she cannot contact me online. I told my husband about it, and he was beyond pissed off. He told mother-in-law to stop trying to force him to have a relationship with his sister, and if she cannot respect this, he will stop speaking to her as well. We thought all was fine, until Saturday. Right as we were getting ready to sing happy birthday, mother-in-law tells my husband she has a surprise, and sister-in-law sits down next to her and starts crying and sobbing about how she misses her brother. My husband was so angry that he walked away. I told my mother-in-law she was a horrible mother, and have since blocked her on Facebook and on my phone. Now, I'm getting Facebook messages and phone calls from other relatives, including my own family, about how rude I was and how I should apologize to mother-in-law for how I behaved. My own mother says that mother-in-law was only trying to help, and that I need to unblock her and beg forgiveness. Am I the a-hole for calling my mother-in-law a horrible mother? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She did something she knew would upset him, and on his birthday. Your husband is an adult and has made his wishes clear, and I'm sure he's happy that you have his back. I agree, not the a-hole. I think a lot of people struggle imagining situations in which they'd cut family off because of their own good relationships, but it does not mean supposed well-intentioned meddling is done for the husband's benefit. Your family should not be interfering or apply pressure on a situation they are hearing about third hand. Good luck. Exactly. My first loyalty is to my husband. He has explained why he feels this way, and his so-called mother has done nothing but refuse to respect his boundaries. If you think such blatant disrespect is acceptable behavior, then I have misjudged you, and I think it's best we do not communicate further while I reevaluate our relationship. Not a-hole. Your husband made it clear that he does not want a relationship with his sister, and that needs to be respected. Your mother-in-law is horrible because her son has repeatedly told her he doesn't want a relationship with his sister. And instead of supporting his decision, she keeps finding ways to force one. You have nothing to apologize for. Keep her blocked and everything, and anyone who insists on demanding you apologize can join her on a blocked list. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my sister-in-law to go to dinner with us? My first time posting here, so please bear with me. A little bit of background. My husband, male 30, and I, female 30, have been living with my in-laws for 2 years now. I share an okay rapport with them as their expectations are a little too much for me to handle, but that's a different story. My sister-in-law, female 23, is kind of spoiled, where she pretty much gets what she wants every time and will change the story, manipulate things and lie in order to make herself look good in front of other people. She has been having issues with her boyfriend for some time, and every time she comes to me for advice and wants to hang out with me when her boyfriend stops hanging out with her. But as soon as they are on good terms or she makes new friends, she stops hanging out with me. She has never asked me to hang out with her when she doesn't need me. On the other hand, my husband and I will try to include her in our outings, dinners, if I'm going to my cousin's house, shopping, etc. So the issue arose when she found out that my husband and I went for dinner with my brother in the city and we did not ask her to go. I had not had dinner with my brother since I got married, and I barely see him as he lives away in a different city than us. This was a random plan that my husband and I ended up making, and as we were getting ready to go out, I suggested we message my brother and see if he wants to hang out with us for dinner. He was free, and so he said yes. We drove to a city 45 minutes, had dinner, and came back home around 11:30 p.m. By this time, everyone was asleep. The next day, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were having breakfast but would not talk to me properly. I tried to say hi and ask how they were doing, but they ignored me. When I kept asking what happened, then my sister-in-law started crying and in a passive-aggressive tone said, "I thought you cared about me." And I said, "I do care about you, but I am not sure what I did wrong to make you cry." At this point, she started saying that I knew she was having a hard time in her relationship and needed support from me, and that she was lonely all day yesterday, and if I was going to be hanging out with my brother for dinner, then I should have taken her too. She said she thought I was going on a date with my husband and therefore did not tag along, but if she knew I was going to have dinner with my brother and husband, then she should have been included too. I have to be honest, I was feeling livid at this point. Her sense of entitlement was making me fume, and I couldn't hold it in any longer, and told her that I get to decide who I have dinner with, and that just because she's having a hard time in her relationship doesn't mean I owe it to her to take her out and make her feel better every single time. My mother-in-law was not happy that I raised my voice and thought my sister-in-law yelled at both me and my husband. My mother-in-law is holding us accountable for making her daughter cry. She is expecting us to apologize to sister-in-law. Am I the a-hole for not taking my sister-in-law for dinner and losing my cool when she yelled? Not the a-hole, but you need to move out, or everyone sucks here. There is obvious tension in the family that isn't necessarily your fault. Your sister-in-law is definitely toxic, but if y'all don't leave the situation, you're just as bad as all of them because you're engaging in and supporting her and your in-laws' behavior. My family has been convincing me to move out, but my husband's mom is not in the best of health, and I am expected to do the chores in the house and take care of the family. That's why we live with the in-laws. Oh, so you belong to them. You have your own life and can make your own choices. You're choosing to stay. Your husband should be making you the priority, not his parents. Thank you. Sometimes one needs another person to be firm and say it as is. I totally get I'm choosing to stay. It's just that I can't leave without my husband, and he's been under their control his whole life, to the point where he didn't even have his own bank account, and his money used to go to them, and he would get pocket money to spend if needed. We need to discuss our future and see what we can do. I'm going to be blunt. You might have to leave him. I hope he stands up and sees the abuse that his parents have put him through his whole life and now onto you, but he might just be in too deep. If that's the case, you have to do what's best for you. You can't keep others warm by setting yourself on fire. Wow, never thought about it in that way. Thanks for putting things in perspective. He has realized the abuse his parents have put him through, and he thanks me for helping me see it. We will be getting my parents' help for our next steps.